Hello everybody and welcome to another video, and what we're going to do today is we're going to be looking at My Dying Bride once again. The new EP Dark Cabaret was released today, and about 2-3 hours ago they released the music video for that track. So I wanted to have a look at it because I checked out a previous track that they released from this EP called A Secret Kiss, and I wasn't overly impressed by it. In fact, I was quite disappointed by it. I was rather scathing about it in my review of it. Now, to be fair, artists can't be on their A game at all times. They're not always going to write absolutely amazing tracks. So, I might have been a little bit harsh on it, possibly. I don't know, but I was quite heavy-handed with my opinion on it. So anyway, I wanted to have a look at this track, Dark Cabaret, to see if it was any different from that track. Unfortunately, there are no lyrics available for this track, so we're going in blind on that front. But I'm hoping that this is going to be a brilliant track. So we'll jump into it and see what we have. So, My Dying Bride, Dark Cabaret. Let's have a look. Well, I'm going to let the credits finish rolling because it's only fair. This is a great, typically My Dying Bride track. I mean, from the very outset of the track, you know, you can tell it's them. They've got a very specific sound. You know, you could not mistake them for anyone else. There's a very specific sound, a very specific guitar tone that gives away who the band is. And where I completely tore Secret Kiss apart, this is, I don't want to say a return to form, because it sounds like maybe they've been like going off kilter for a while now, but after A Secret Kiss was a bit of a disappointment for me, this is a very welcome entry. It's a absolutely fantastic piece of music. You know, it's back to what you typically expect. You know, the song's nearly 10 minutes long, you know, and it's again one of these long, sweeping sort of poetic stories. And like I said, unfortunately, I don't have any lyrics for this track, but I mean the video speaks volumes. You know, throughout the video, he seems to be in great mourning and almost tortured over the death of this woman who, as it showed towards the end of the video, he possibly killed himself. You know, it showed him like strangling her on the ground and her body going limp and lifeless. So it seems like he killed this woman, and throughout the video he's seemingly racked with guilt and torturing himself over the fact that this woman has died, and he is responsible for that. So I expect the lyrics to follow that sort of similar story. But, you know, it was once again brilliant. Now, something I pointed out throughout Ghosts of Orion and Secret Kiss is the fact that in those albums, you know, in the last album and, you know, in most recent tracks, he seems to be using this chorus effect on his voice when he does clean vocals. And it's something I don't think is necessary. I don't think it really adds anything to it, and I've said this on multiple occasions. He's got such a powerful voice at sort of displaying and portraying emotions like the pain and agony of a song through his voice. He's so good at that he doesn't really need the effects. Now, the same effects are in this track, but they're not as prominent as they have been. They're not as noticeable. They don't have as big of an impact on his voice in this track as they have done in previous tracks. So that was again quite a welcome change. You know, for the most part, when he was doing clean vocals, his voice sounded mostly unchanged. There was just that sort of hint of it being used, but it wasn't as strong as it has been, and I'm quite glad of that, because, you know, I like his voice when it's unedited, you know, without effect. I mean, you listen to albums like The Dreadful Hours, it is an absolutely amazing album, you know, and you can hear the pain and the anguish in his voice when he's doing his clean vocals in that album so perfectly. And, you know, I don't think the chorus effect is needed. You know, every band, you know, might try something to make a new album different. That's fair enough, and, you know, they're allowed to do that. It's their prerogative. It's this specific thing that he's been doing with his voice, I don't think is necessary. I don't think it really adds anything to it. But, you know, it's ultimately their decision. If they like the way it sounds, that's fair enough. Ultimately, like I said, I'm not a fan of it, but, you know, some other people might really like that aspect. But again, a really good song, really powerful. You know, you could feel the emotional weight of the song. You know, you could see the pain and the anguish in the video. And there was the mixture of his clean vocals and his harsh vocals. Again, I do love Aaron's harsh vocals. He's so good at that. And, you know, I really liked it. I thought it was great. You know, again, I could possibly be biased since they are pretty much my favourite band of all time. You know, so, you know, I do have a slight bias there. But, you know, I really love this track. You know, I'd love to actually meet Aaron again, because I did meet him once before, very briefly, when I first saw him in concert, and I got a signed ticket to him. But I'd love to meet him again. I'd love to be able to just sit down in a pub with him, have a few glasses of wine, and just chat. You know, he seems like such a nice guy. You know, I was watching a video he put up on YouTube, I think it was, where he was just walking around the local area where he lives, talking to like cows in the field and stuff like that, you know, talking about the trees and stuff and how miserable and wet it was in Yorkshire. You know, he's just such a down-to-earth, fun guy. You know, I'd love to actually just sit down and chat shit with him. And I'd love to know how he comes up with all of these amazing lyrics, because he has written some amazing tracks. I mean, one that I always go back to is Light at the End of the World. It's possibly one of my all-time favourite pieces of music by him. Or by them, should I say. And, you know, it's just this one great, very powerful, very heartbreaking story. And I'd love to know where these ideas come from. I mean, there was a song from the Ghosts of Orion, which was inspired by the fact that he almost lost his daughter recently due to quite severe medical scare, or not medical scare, it was a medical situation, and he almost lost his daughter. You know, so that's where that one came from. But where does he get all these amazing ideas from? And, you know, how does he manage to write such amazing lyrics? You know, he's a master wordsmith. You know, he's so good with words. I'm clearly not, but he's so good with words, and, you know, yeah, he's just somebody I've always admired from when I first ever heard. I can't remember what the first track of theirs was that I ever heard, but it was a long, long time ago. You know, which one was it? No, damned if I can remember. But, you know, from the first moment I heard My Dying Bride, I absolutely loved them. You know, one of them, they've been pretty much my favourite band ever since then. I have yet to get this EP. Money's been a bit scarce of late, what with it being Christmas coming up and several other things where real life is interjected, so I've not actually got my hands on this EP yet, but rest assured I will be getting it at some point. So I haven't actually heard the other tracks on the album. If I don't actually know how many tracks there are on there, but, you know, I've heard 2 of them, you know, so I really want to hear the rest of them. But yeah, I've really waffled on about that, haven't I? So I'm going to leave that as it is. If anybody would like to suggest a track for me to react to, then please do so by all means. You can drop a comment in the comment section below, or message me on my Facebook or my Instagram, or you could even message me through Patreon, where you could also help to support this channel, which would be of great help to me. There is an option in Patreon where you can get your suggestion jumped to the front of the queue, should you so desire. There is a limit on how often you can do that, and that's just to be fair to people. To people who suggest tracks through regular means such as Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube comments. And if you do suggest a track through those regular means, do know it could take me a while to get around to your suggestion, since I do get suggested so many new tracks every single day that my list grows faster than I can record the videos. But I do write down every suggestion I get, so it'll get done eventually. It just might take me a while to get around to it. Also, Metalhead Reacts is a proud supporter of the Sophie Lancaster Foundation, a British-based charity whose main goal is to put an end to hate crimes. More tipped towards the hate crimes against people of the alternative culture, but essentially, you know, they want to put an end to all hate crimes, and it's something I believe in very strongly, something I think is very, very important, especially in the state of the world at the moment. You know, there's a lot of rampant racism, sexism, and homophobia, and, you know, stuff like that flying around at the moment. You know, it's a big problem at the moment. But the bit that really interests me is the hate crimes against people of the alternative community, because it's something that's been going on for decades, and nobody talks about it. Nobody does anything about it, and it is a very real problem. And we're talking about people that are getting violently attacked, brutally attacked, just purely because of the fact that they listen to alternative music or wear alternative fashion. You know, this sort of thing has been going on for decades. I've been dealing with it for pretty much most of my life, for about 30 years. You know, and you know, we're not just talking about little petty things like insults being shouted from across the street or getting shoulder rammed as you walk down the road. No, we're talking about real violent crimes where people are getting hospitalized and severely injured. They're going in with like broken limbs and sometimes more life-threatening injuries just because they listen to alternative music or wear alternative fashion. And nothing ever gets said about this. Every single day we hear about sexism, racism, homophobia, transphobia, religious hatred, ableism. We hear about these sort of things every single day in every facet of the news media, from like the internet to actual physical media. We hear it all the damn time. But we don't hear about these people that are getting beaten to within an inch of their life because of their taste in music and clothing. The last time it was widely spoken about was 13 years ago, when Sophie Lancaster and her boyfriend Rob Maltby were violently attacked and brutally beaten by a group of about 5 or 6 people who beat them so severely that they both ended up in comas. Now, Rob Maltby, he did thankfully survive. He was in a coma for around about a week, maybe a little bit longer, but he did survive. Sophie Lancaster, on the other hand, she was in a coma for 13 days before she succumbed to her injuries and she died. This young woman, she was about 20 years old at the time, 21 I think it was. She was beaten to death just purely for the fact that she listened to alternative music and wore alternative fashion. And like I said, this happened 13 years ago, and it was all over the news for a few weeks, maybe a month or two. But since then, we've not heard a single thing about it. But in those 13 years since that happened, there have been hundreds, if not thousands, of similar attacks on people from the alternative culture that have gone unmentioned. No one's said a single thing about it. And that's because no one's died. And that's just unacceptable. We shouldn't have to wait for someone to lose their life before a topic like this gets spoken about. We shouldn't have to wait for a death before something gets done. And this is something that really, really needs to change. Because 2 years ago, a young woman in Glasgow, in Scotland, was running a charity gig at a venue, and she had to go back to her home, which was a 5-minute walk away. And during the time that she left the venue to go to her house, in that 5 minutes of time, she was attacked twice by the same group of people, again knocking her to the ground, beating her, punching her, kicking her, stamping on her. And this happened to her twice in the space of 5 minutes. Where was this in the news? Why wasn't this all over the newspapers? What happened to her that could have very easily gone the same way as what happened to Sophie Lancaster. Luckily, a passing taxi driver put an end to it, but the thing is, he didn't even stop to see if she was okay. He just carried on. And she had to go back to the venue to see her friends before, she got any help at all. And things like this go on all the time and just get ignored. And by ignoring them, we're letting these people get away with it. We're basically saying, carry on, go ahead, we're not going to do anything about it anyway. That is not acceptable. It needs to change. And this is what the Sophie Lancaster Foundation is all about. They want more people talking about this. They want more people to know that this sort of thing is happening so we can put a stop to it. Because what happened to Sophie Lancaster can never be allowed to happen again. It should never have happened in the first place, but we most certainly cannot allow it to happen again. They don't want to see another family go through what they went through when they had to watch their daughter slowly die over the course of 2 weeks because of the mindless, thuggish actions of a group of people that were so small-minded that they couldn't accept the fact that not everybody is the same, that not everybody likes the same things. Everybody has the right to be an individual, and nobody has the right to tell you how you should dress, what you should listen to, or how you should live your life. So if you'd like to find out more about the Sophie Lancaster Foundation, there is a link to their website in the description below. You can go over there, find out what they're working on at the moment, find out what their main goal is, because they can explain it a lot better than I can. And if you can help them out in any small way, obviously don't feel obligated to do so, but if you can help them out in any small way, whether it be like one of these wristbands from their web store, or a small donation through their website, the smallest amount can make the biggest difference. And the sooner we bring more attention to this, the sooner we get more people talking about this, the sooner we can help to stamp out prejudice, hatred and intolerance everywhere. But I'm going to leave that as it is for the time being. Thank you all very, very much for watching, and I'll see you again soon. Bye bye.